Welcome back, guys. This is the video tutorial for how to make these little nesting fabric boxes. This video goes along with the sewing pattern that I wrote for these, so make sure that you have that downloaded when you're watching. In the actual pattern, I talk about how to make this two-tone, how you can just make it single-toned if you want to, how you can change the dimensions of like what the two tones are. I also go into detail on how to install these rope handles, and also if you don't want to do the rope handles, how you can just like sew on your handles instead and use like fabric handles. But yeah, this pattern is super versatile. I'm making little Valentine's Day boxes. You can make an Easter basket. You can make a little diaper caddy, like fill this up and give it as a baby shower gift. I've been using the mini one as just like a little makeup basket on my counter. Anyway, I'm really loving making these. They're super fast and easy make and very beginner friendly. So let's just get into it. Once you have all of your fabric cut out, you're going to take your two outside pieces of fabric and line them up right sides together and pin them along that long edge. And then you're just gonna sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance along those lines for both pieces of main fabric. This is the only place where we use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The rest of the project, we're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. But once you're done that, you're going to flip it over to the wrong side and fold the seam open. We're folding all of our seams open for this project because it just makes it a little thinner when we are sewing multiple layers together. Now that we have our main piece of fabric together, we're going to box out the corners just like we did for the lining and for the interfacing as well. Once you've pressed that seam open, you are going to take the sticky side of your fusible foam. Make sure you only get single-sided fusible foam, and you're going to place it right in the middle of where your main fabric is, so that there's about a 1/2 inch of main fabric left over on every side except for the top side, which should have about 1.5 inches of fabric left over. Then grab a liner piece, which should be now the same size as your main piece of fabric, pin them, and then just sew along that top edge with a 1/2 inch seam allowance this time, and again press that seam open with both of your pieces of fabric. Then you're going to take those pieces of fabric and place them right sides together so that the two liner pieces are facing each other and then your two outer pieces are facing each other. Make sure that middle seam is lined up, and then you're going to sew along the two sides as close to the foam as you can get, which will be about a 1/2 inch, all the way down the main fabric end. But then on the liner end, you're going to leave a healthy gap. I talk more about the specifics of that gap in the pattern. Once that is all sewn, you are going to box out your corners. So we're going to just kind of like fluff this up a little bit, make it 3D, and then push out your corners like this and line up the seams. Make sure the seams are open once again so that we can have a little bit of an easier time sewing. And then we're going to sew again about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so as close as we can get to that foam without actually going over the foam, on all of the four corners. The liner won't have the foam obviously, but you're going to be sewing 4 corners just like where I'm pointing here. Once that's done, you are going to reach through the gap that you left in the lining and pull through the rest of your box. This is a little bit tricky because we're using a thick foam, especially if you use like a thick fabric for your outer lining, but the bigger gap you leave, the easier it'll be to pull out. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your fabric. Make sure you push out those corners and check that all the seams are hidden, and then we're just going to go around the top edge and fold it over. You can either do 1 inch or 2 1/2 inch folds depending on how thick your fabric is, and then we just sew a top stitch around the outside. And now we're going to talk about doing the handles. I love using rope handles for this project. This grommet tool that I got on Amazon has been amazing. It's so affordable and it just really adds like a professional finish to these. Like, this does not look handmade when you are adding these like ropes as the handles. You're also welcome to do a fabric handle, which I talk about in the pattern as well, but this is how I attach the ropes, and then this is how our project should look when it's done. There's the two sizes for quick and easy make.